Thank you. Mia, are we recording? Okay. All right, welcome everybody to the February meeting of the Land Use and ULURP Committee of Community Board 9. I'll ask the committee members to briefly introduce themselves, and then I'll introduce our guests. We have a couple of guest speakers tonight. Hector, you want to start?
Yeah, Hector Robertson, community member.
Nicola Cox, community member.
Teresa Westerdahl, board member. Janice Brown, a resident member.
Cheryl Bernard, resident member.
I'm Suki Chung. I'm a board member. I'm the chair of the committee.
And Josh Serrano, board member.
Our first guest tonight is Adam Kushner, our urban planning fellow from the Fund for the City of New York, who's going to do a presentation about development and housing in Community Board 9, some of our basic demographic and housing characteristics. And then after that, we have Morgan Fraid and Jonah Rogoff from the Department of City Planning, who are going to answer some questions that we might have about the recent charter changes and relating to ULURP and City of Yes zoning changes. So thank you very much to the guests for coming. And Adam, take it away.
Yeah.
Yes,
totally fine.
Thank you.
So I'm Adam. I'm with the Fund for City of New York. I'm a community planning fellow, and the board has tasked me with creating a fair share report of how much development, and specifically in housing, has been created pretty much over the past 10 plus years. And data was a little iffy, and so you'll kind of see it on the presentation. But ultimate question that we're asking is, has CD9 carried out a disproportionate share of housing production over the past 10 plus years, and to what extent has that housing aligned with community needs for affordability and equity? Just some the agenda items, why this matters, more community oriented and just legislative obligation. Going to show actual housing stock growth from 2010 to 2024, again ish 2025 as well is also included here, as well as some ones in the pipeline. So this is broken down by number of bedrooms, land use composition. Going to define AMI, which DCP did a little bit last time, but just for those who don't know it. Primary housing pipeline again, CD9 population to housing units, so the overall density, getting into maybe some policy solutions with that. Housing characteristics and implications, how our neighbors are doing, again, AMI implications, New York City and Brooklyn overall population and housing growth. So it's a lot. I'm gonna try to keep it under 10 minutes though, so we just go through it.
Support.
Yeah. So why it matters, really the three pillars that this was kind of broken down to, and kind of why it was proposed to me, was addressing development inequity, impact on residents and community, and aligning with planning goals. So the whole point of this presentation isn't necessarily to say that development isn't out of the question, but just kind of being more aware of what has been built, and if there is development, just being more trying to understand like why we should be building it, if anything. And then impact on residents and community. We don't want this to lead to overconcentration because of overhousing, increased cost of living, strain on local resources, and then again aligning with some future planning. So the main legislative and legal obligations that we were able to find and pull together was MIH and the Fair Share Framework. So New York City Council introduced a local law to amend New York City Charter, sponsored by Adrian Adams. And so this was ultimately to create a citywide fair share housing assessment and plan every 5 years. So this is still ultimately pretty broad, and it's kind of up to boards and meetings like this to narrow it down a little bit more. And MIH, I think y'all are pretty familiar with that, but ultimately it's mandating 20 to 30% of units that are affordable for 50 to 80% AMI or low income tenants.
In the areas where it's mapped.
Yeah. So this is what we found just through Pluto data, through ACS one-year estimates, through the census data. But from 2010 to 2024, approximately 3,000 to 5,000 market rate and affordable housing units were added to the housing stock in Brooklyn CD9, indicating some significant development. So as you can see, from 2010 to 2024, 41,681, 2010 to 44,546. That was through census data. From what we found kind of through DCP housing database and also through Pluto, the number seems to be a little bit lower than that, which might be important for the vacancy rates that we get into a little bit later. But some things that were a little bit interesting was this 3-bedroom. I thought was interesting. It went from 5,000 to 4,000, and that's a negative 783 amount of units and bedrooms. So that didn't really make quite sense to me. And then there's also 1-bedrooms, negative 128 as well, and we get into some like demolitions and that kind of stuff later on. And then so what we're expecting for 2025 to 2032 with the new housing pipelines, and we get into it in this presentation, but showing the 7399 Empire Boulevard, adding studios and 1 to 3 bedrooms, the Vital Brooklyn mixed use 1,081 being added, 301 additional units from the Spice Factory 960 Franklin Ave. Yeah.
Can I just
Can you go back?
Mhm.
Hold it right there, go back a minute. The previous one.
Oh, oh, next one.
If I could just, yeah, go ahead,
Go.
go ahead.
That was,
Yeah, if just go forward.
Oh, forward.
Um,
no, where is it?
yeah, right there,
Yeah,
like if I,
yeah.
can I just, I think you meant to say, and I know we talked about this, it's not, on the left side, it's not, literally, I think, numbers of bedrooms, right? Isn't it numbers of rooms? Or was that
No, so I
actually
changed
number of
this. There was another slide
Okay.
that we talked about. It was number of
Okay.
rooms. This is actual
This is actual
numbers.
numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we were seeing before that
Yeah.
it said up to 9 bedrooms. It was saying 9 rooms, and it was like over 1,000, which didn't make sense. There's not 9 bedrooms.
No, that one
Yeah,
makes
that's
sense.
rooms,
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see,
Yeah.
I could see a negative number for the 3 bedrooms because I'm sure a lot of buildings are splitting up some of the
Mhm.
larger units to make it a studio and a 2-bedroom.
Is that what's happening?
Oh yeah, that's happened over the years.
And demolitions of
My studio.
Almost 800?
Yeah, I can keep going on here, and it'll maybe become clearer. But so what we talked about through 2025, kind of data that we found through the DCP database. Class A residential units added 4,917, new buildings 4,946, alterations 306, and then demolitions mostly 1 to 2 family bedrooms, negative 202. So yeah, this was what we found through December 9, 2025, and even suggested numbers might of units being added might be even closer to 5,500, just based on some of the newer numbers from 2025 database. Okay, and this was if y'all are familiar, with Zola. This is the land use composition, just broken down by 1 to 2 families, public facilities, multifamily. These are just the percentages that are helpful to see it. As you can see, it's a lot of multifamily and 1 to 2 family. A lot being 1 to 2 family, and then the rest commercial office, open space, outdoor rec, which is really small, unfortunately. Even though we have Prospect Park right here. And so just kind of seeing it further in a map, same exact numbers, just kind of seeing it as residential spaces and how much of that is being taken, and then a lot of this public facilities and institutions taken by Vital Brooklyn. And then another map just showing the zoning for CD9, 94.6% is residential. So just showing it kind of further how it's looking on residential units and commercial.
I'm sorry, what is your data source again?
Zola.
See in the bottom corner, it says the
Well,
hard to read. Oh, I see. We'll get these slides later.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Thank you.
And this is just because I'm gonna get a little bit into AMI. So and yeah, DCP covered this last time, but I think it's just really helpful to understand how AMI is determined. So just kind of based on this, first thing you do is find your family size in the left-hand column. Follow the row across until you find how much your family earns per year. And then at the top of the column where you find your family income, see the percent of AMI that's associated to your family's income. So for, and we get into it later on like what the exact AMI spreads are within the district. But it's just showing further, what is considered extremely low income, very low income, moderate income, to middle income. So the previous slide, it was cut off till 100%. I included the links just in case we wanted to go to it, but I did cut it off just because a lot more people are within the, I would say, the 0% to 120 range of AMI.
Excuse me. Do you have the ratio of homeowners versus renters?
I do, I think in one of the slides.
Awesome.
I think I do. Okay, just again showing like how AMI is divided between studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. These are the rents that are typically charged with the amount with the AMI percentages as well in place. Okay, so this is kind of getting into the housing pipelines that's in progress, as y'all know. So Vital Brooklyn is initiative by City of Yes, zoning forms to increase 4,000 units, 100+ affordable housing across central Brooklyn. CD9 is receiving over 1,000 new units of affordable housing, 40% to 80% AMI. 773 of which is general affordable housing. 9% of that is home ownership, 308 supportive housing, and then 364 shelter beds. I know this was something that people were interested in, is the shelter beds. So they're showing that on the screen here. And just showing the kind of progress for Vital Brooklyn, just the timeline, and just how that's gonna kind of play into occupancy and units being built. So really by 2034 is expected to have full occupancy, and this is how it's planning on being built by the 3 phases shown. This is getting into 7399 Empire Boulevard, and how it's split up here by low income to moderate income, non-income restricted. Comes out to around 261 total new units.
Is this the latest design, or is this the original?
I think this is the original
Yeah.
design. The
Yeah, 'cause
latest design,
it's
which we're
different
about to
now.
tell you, it's 400 units total housing, because they got rid of most of the commercial.
Okay.
And it's 80 of them are going to be at 40% AMI.
Okay.
And it's like 4 different buildings, it's changed dramatically.
Okay. I can edit this. Sorry.
Yeah,
for that.
my apologies, I didn't catch that before.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No, I should have caught it too. Yeah. All right.
Our
I'll
approval
move on
was
from
based
that one
on
then.
commercial, having a decent amount of commercial.
So this is getting into just some more housing characteristics. So just thought it was interesting by key household type. 36% are living alone, 32% are married, family without children 31%. So again, just kind of showing the demographics of the region. And then the median gross rent and how it's changed from 2016 to 2024, all increasing. And then just getting into the vacancy rate as well. I know we talked about it, but the 11% seemed a little high for us just because we anticipate the total housing units to be lower, and then population is also iffy as well on the data, but for now we're saying that the vacancy rate is around 11%. and then getting into rent stabilized housing as well. That's something here about that. So Furman, where I got this data for housing rent and stabilized apartments, the legacy 90% plus legacy are those in which at least 90% of units are rent stabilized. So this was saying that over 16,692 were considered stabilized apartments, and a lot of them, at least 90%, are considered rent stabilized. I thought was interesting. Yeah, and this was just getting it a little bit further into the shelter beds. So I saw this total number of individuals in DHS shelter systems whose last address was in CD9 area, and those were the changes that I saw.
So,
just a
wait,
couple of
wait.
questions.
Go back.
So it's saying that the population of homeless shelter system beds went down by 9%?
From 2022, so I think that is going to be a little bit different.
That couldn't
For
be
this.
possible with as many as we've seen come in.
So just a couple of
Couldn't be
questions
possible.
about that. So the controller's report that came out, I think in 23 or 24, had the number of residential beds in our district as being around 900, and I haven't found anywhere like an actual accounting of where all these beds are or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know where the controller got his numbers from. I know there's been like people on our committee who've interested in that, so that they're gonna try and track that down, but I think it would be good to try and track down the difference between this number and the number from the controller. I do know that one of the things the controller said is that DHS often does not include homeless shelters that are run by nonprofits, the Article 9 shelters. So that's one possible source. The second thing is I don't really understand the difference at the top between the 90% legacy Prop RS and the regular rent stabilized units.
Yeah, I was trying to. I think my notes aren't up to date here, but I thought it was interesting. It said legacy properties were the pre-1974 multifamily buildings with 6 or more units that contain at least one rent stabilized apartment.
So that's a number of buildings. That's 16,692.
Yeah, that's what I saw from Furman.
That's the number
That's
of
a little high, huh?
I don't think it's the number of buildings.
16,000
I think it's the number of
buildings.
units.
I think it should be the number of units.
And
Yeah,
the-
so this might be.
So what is the
Mixed up.
difference between the two?
I think the legacy, as they're called here, refers to that time when I think rent stabilization was universal in New York, so
Well,
pre
it's never-
1975.
It was
Right.
never universal, right? But what you're saying is, I mean, if we could, double check with the Furman Center, if what you're effectively saying is rent stabilized units that were built before a certain date, is that what it's saying?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to look
Because
into it further again.
Overall rent stabilized units would include new construction rent stabilized.
Using things like voluntary
421A.
inclusionary housing, mandatory inclusionary housing.
Because if the numbers don't, to me, fully add up, because if we built 5,000 units, right, not all of which were under 420, many of which, but not all of which were under 421A, right, I would expect to see something closer to like 20,000, right, if those two numbers are additive. So if we could just like, and then the other thing is the overall number of rent stabilized units to me seems low relative to what we were seeing reported on other sources like the Equitable Development Data Explorer, which suggested a much higher percentage of rent stabilized units. But the thing is, nobody really, I don't know if anybody really knows, right? Because it's only DHCR that has. Does city planning have this
I mean,
data?
like a list of rent stabilized apartments.
Yeah, like do they actually have
or
which
like
apartments are stabilized and which
I-
not, because we all know some apartments have fallen out of
right
stabilization.
DHCR. As far as I know, only DHCR has that.
Is there any way the city can take that information out of them? Because this is really important. Like, our district has a lot of rent stabilized units and people care about this. Is there any way we can get the data out of the state?
I think people have tried. I mean, like people have tried many times. I think it's like a notoriously, I think it's a notoriously like poorly kept set of information.
Is there some reason why they may
inexcusable
not
in
wanna
this day
share
and
it
age
to
with
protect
AI,
people's
et
privacy?
cetera. It's not.
It's not even that they don't. It's my understanding that it's not even that they don't want to share it. I think for a long time it just like was not really. It was not really tracked.
That can't be true. They have all of the rents registered. Right?
So for
all
example,
of the leases have
so,
to be registered.
I mean, so I live in a rent stabilized
Yeah.
apartment, right? Like we get a letter every year, stipulating what our rent is and so on and so forth. And I think like most rent stabilized tenants do, but in terms of a comprehensive list of all rent stabilized apartments that is available to the public and like the legal rent for each one and information on how many units have fallen out of rent stabilization over the years. We don't have that information, and I don't know, like, if that information does exist, I don't know if it's available to the public.
I mean, it doesn't have to be available to like me and her and him, but
Mhm.
like it should be available to city agencies. Like, is there a way that we can like put some pressure on DHCR to make it available to the city's housing agencies?
I would just say that
So we just want.
HPD does have the information by building, but I don't believe it's by unit, and I'm not sure if there's like a legal or disclosure issue with that.
Yeah, I think it might be.
But like DHCR, I believe on their website they have like a list of all the buildings.
But not the number of units within each building.
Yeah.
I feel like there should be a way to get that data at least in aggregate,
Right.
That is really important
Yeah.
to, for a lot of reasons. But yeah, if you guys can.
It might be because it could open people to being targeted,
We don't need the detail, we just wanna know broad base, how many units do we have in our district?
We can.
Similar to Pluto, Pluto's not giving you, you're not drilling down on specifically the address to see, but you can at least get some high level information. Even if our, the state representatives should be able to have that information. Assembly, state senators, somebody should be able to get it.
So this is 2005, I see at the bottom, or like the key, the household characteristics, that's,
This was from 2025 Pluto data.
okay, I doubt it, I just see it at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then the key household is 2024, and this is 2024?
Yes. Everything else you can see. This was 2022. This was 2024.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see.
This was 2024. That's 2024.
Yeah, the shelter numbers are very non-convincing.
Yeah, I'll look. This is all like very rough.
Right,
rough
so it's
estimates.
DHS primarily what you have, but they, as you were saying, the non-for-profits aren't listed
I
at
wonder
all.
if the domestic shelters are listed. Domestic violence
Okay,
shelters.
so we probably have to like let Adam move on so we can.
It's just that we really need to think about this.
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
Yeah,
I
and
completely
understand it.
agree. I completely agree, but
I agree too.
you're taking notes and we're gonna follow up on all
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah. Okay. So I thought this was really interesting. We basically broke up because we were having a hard time just finding population to acreage as well. So using Population Fact Finder, I was able to click into each census tract and look at the population per acre, and I just kind of highlighted it here. And I put over here just again, like populations were iffy, but total population according to ACS survey data was around 93,000 people within the district. And when Suki and I were looking at it, the margin of error was very high for whatever reason. So that's why I said population's iffy here. But When I clicked into the census tracts, it was using decennial census data, so from the survey done every 10 years. And this is where I get the populations of over just about over 101,000. And so you can see just kind of by census tract what are the most densely populated areas. And so I have a map as well to show that. And it didn't come out as great as I wanted it to, but I can come back to this slide too in a sec. But I can, so this is linked, and basically if you hover over it, it shows which census tracts are, have the exact population densities by acre by population. And I'm gonna work on someone who knows coding a little bit better to show, the individual tracts as well. But this is hyperlinked, and I don't have to go into it now, but it just shows like which areas are densely populated. And this isn't helpful to really look at, but this is probably the most helpful. So like census tract 798 is the most densely populated, and then this 808, I'm pretty sure it was like a cutoff tract. It was like one of those, I think it was on the southern part of the district, and it was cut off, or the northern or southern part.
It's difficult to comprehend with
So
the
maybe
numbers.
The map would be a lot
Yeah.
better, so I'm working on it.
You can just even give us a sense of like, where is 798.2?
Yeah,
Where is
What part of the
I
district is
I
it?
have the map, but it's not great. I'm gonna update this
You
presentation.
could just point
Do
to
you know
it
which
on
one
the
is
map, like, which
798?
one is
Here,
that
honestly,
the
I could
200
probably
now?
use
You would have to put them.
this map. It might even be even
Yeah.
better. So I think this was down the area that was cut off for one of the
Like
tracks for the
Clarkson?
798, so the smaller one. And then I think the largest one,
And then where
I
is
can't
this?
remember, I have to get back to you on that actually.
I feel like it might have been the area around Ocean and Flatbush is what I suspect, because I know that area is super dense. It's like over 200 people per acre.
Oh, by the park.
I'll make that as a note too.
Parkside?
It's the whole, well, like the whole strip off of Ocean and Flatbush is one census tract, I think.
Okay.
And then like the blocks off of it are separate census tracts.
Yeah, I can pull up and get a cleaner map.
And then we've got the density with, near us.
There it is again.
Ebbets Field, and Tilly Towers.
Yeah, I would bet that's another very dense.
That has to be very,
And I think the suggestion was that I'm forgetting where exactly I saw it, but over 90 the over 90 figure was considered pretty dense. So that was definitely more than half of the census tracts that were densely populated by acreage, at least acreage and population.
So those 802, 333, 319,
It's probably where the hospital is.
These are all census tracts.
it would be great to know where that was.
Yes. I'll pull a map and it'll look cleaner. And I wish I had more time, but it would have looked really nice with this. It would have like showed you hover over it and it would have looked nice.
So it's 200 the persons per acre. No, go back.
Oh.
I'm just looking at the
dark.
the 200 plus. You see in the corner persons per acreage
Mm-hmm.
in the far right.
Yeah.
So that would be the very very dark purple.
Mhm.
But it really doesn't make sense because
Well, I think Adam was
Just
saying
knowing
like
where the house-
he needs to redo.
yeah.
I need to redo this part.
Yeah.
it wasn't really ready for this, but I thought it would look really nice. as a
It
whole.
will look nice. But
Yeah.
I'm getting the
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And even this is kind of wrong. This says 125,000 for the total population. That doesn't make any sense. But eventually it'll
work
look
in
nice.
progress.
Work in progress. Yeah.
You should put that.
This is another interactive map that I thought was really interesting from Open Data, and it showed the completed units for us through 2024, as well as the housing and pipeline. And so you're able to kind of click into
Oh, yeah,
our neighbors as well, and see what's in the pipeline and what's completed units. So I know that was like a question of the board as well, how our neighbors are doing as well. I think I wrote this down actually.
It's real easy to get like a vibe to for it because we know where the Prospect Park is and where Empire is. So
Mhm.
it's kind of easy to identify. Not
Yeah.
easy, but it's it tracks.
Yeah, I was seeing here that like South Crown Heights had 214 completed units, and in the pipeline it said somewhere between 1,582 as of 2024.
And
Why
is
is there a
the
big jump
pink
like
is the
that?
historic district?
I'm not sure.
The
Which one?
pink, there's a pink area.
These are all community districts. So like this is our
Oh,
district
okay,
right
oh,
here.
I thought it might be.
Yeah, this is a more zoomed out version.
Yeah, so Crown Heights South, that's Franklin Avenue and all that development in the pipeline.
Okay, so just further getting into stuff related to AMI. So this is where CD9 fell in terms of citywide. So in new buildings with 4+ units built since 2010, nearly 60% of apartments are market rate. However, the 34% share, so 1,356 units of targeted to low income households, so around below 80% AMI. It's notably higher than the shares of Brooklyn at 23% and New York City, which is 27%. So you can see like those numbers up here.
Crown Heights,
Yeah, this is where we lie for the whole, compared to the whole city, and compared to Brooklyn is higher.
So this is just the affordable housing.
Mm-hmm. And well, it's also same for market rate as well.
Oh, this is just where we are with the units.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
4+ units. Buildings with 4+ units.
Who was
is
the
what's
highest?
holding here.
Who was the highest?
Sorry.
Highest to the right. Who was the highest? What area was the highest? Williamsburg?
I'm not sure. I could look at that.
Is this percentage of all like new units that are targeted, that are income targeted in some way? Like
No,
that's what
I
the
don't think
percentage
so. I think it's considering all buildings with at least 4+ units.
I like your question. What was your question again?
Which is the highest? Where the blue line?
Who built the highest?
Oh, the highest, like kind of over here, right?
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, I'll find that out.
And inverse, the lowest.
And the lowest, yeah. I can look at
The
that.
lowest is the one who's probably built 0 units of
That-
housing, period. You know.
We know.
Yeah, probably where
Yeah, maybe I have
most
some guesses.
development is happening, right? Like Williamsburg,
Yeah.
some neighborhoods in the Bronx. Queens is having that big development boom.
Okay, and so this was how CD9 housing characteristics were broken up too. So showing around 25.3% of is less than 30% of AMI, so extremely low housing, and 31% to 50% AMI had about 14.81% of that, and then the rest was either moderate to high income. So 40.2% of households earn less than 50% of AMI, indicating some significant affordability challenges with Brooklyn CD9, underscoring critical need for targeted housing programs to support these lower income households. So yeah, I mean it's kind of like playing into our idea that affordability is still a pretty big issue, especially.
Well, what
with
year
this.
was this now?
I don't have a year, but I'm assuming it's 2024.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can kind of overlay, like a bar chart of the income bands in CD9 with a bar chart of the rental affordability bands, right? Like if we know like X% of the housing stock in the district is affordable to people in this income range versus this income range, and then we look at the actual breakdown of the incomes to see like whether those two distributions match up or where they don't match up.
Yeah, I can create something like that.
That would be super.
It's a little tricky though, because we've had such an influx of population and outflux and COVID. You know, when the census was taken just after COVID, so it's a little tricky data. But thank you, I love this kind of analysis, so appreciate it. But it is important to know what year for me.
Yeah, I'll pull that for sure. Okay, so then this was just showing from DCP housing database and population projections from the New York City comptrollers, just showing housing units by borough and just showing that Brooklyn is kind of outperforming in terms of units and in population. So what we were kind of getting at in our meetings was that we are projected to build still over around 4,000 units within the area. So it's getting to an exceedingly high rate. And this is just for projections of units and population for 2030 to 2040. So just showing like Brooklyn is outperforming all the other boroughs.
Wow, with the infrastructure,
You need a graph to know that.
not,
It's gonna be unlivable in Brooklyn City. No parking.
well, then you think about things too, like
So,
schools.
So they're
Actually,
projecting 2 million
so
people,
the
27,
Yeah,
2.7 million
2.7 million
living in Brooklyn?
by 2030, 2040. And then 2.8 by 2040.
so I
Due
just
to the
wanna-
units that are being built? Or?
And then
just
here's the
happening above
units being built here.
Brooklyn? Right.
And rent? Due to all the
So
private
because of-
houses being sold and gone
And-
and more buildings going up. That's what it probably is.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, okay. Yeah.
How is that number projected? I mean,
It was from a study from the comptroller's office. We got the numbers.
no, I'm just saying,
Wait,
you
so
know,
I just wanna sort of clarify,
Just let Brooklyn rules.
so the DCP, the New York City population projection is from where? From DCP?
DCP was from it was from DCP housing database and then also the comptroller's report.
Okay, and that, the DCP housing population projection was the most recent one, was from 2023 or 2024?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so, and then the New York City comptroller's report was what, for the housing production?
Yeah, I believe so. I can't remember the exact name of the
Okay.
report.
So to the question about, you were saying like, how do they come up with this population projection? I mean, I guess that's first of all a question for Jordan and Jonah. But one of the things that we've been talking about with the census person and with amongst ourselves is the census estimates for like future population are based on demographic models, and the DCP projections, it looks like it's a combination of demographic models plus the zoned capacity for new housing. Is that?
So where, I'm curious where you, well, so we definitely have data obviously for the current status, but we typically don't have projection data, because that's, so I don't know.
That's
where did you-
I guess probably
I think it comes
this
on our
this
website.
might have been from DCP housing, more the 2010 to 2020, what's already been built, already established, and then the projections I think were from the comptrollers.
Okay.
No, I think the projections are from your website, because you have a population division that does these projections.
We don't,
I could look at it
the
again.
projection, our population division, we only have projections when, we believe that there are errors with the census. And so we
Okay,
like work to correct them, but we're not projecting that far into the future.
oh, interesting.
The
Okay.
only minor exception to that is like we give the school construction authority data
Okay,
on like rezonings in the pipeline or
okay,
but I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure like that was fully the controllers.
okay. Because I think we definitely got reports off your website where there's like projections and population projections into the future. But if you're saying that in practice that is never used, then that makes sense to me.
We'll double check, but I can say with absolute certainty, like we don't, yeah.
Okay,
I wish we did. wish we like could we had a crystal ball like that, but we
Because like there's a big divergence between what the census projects going, the census doesn't project all the way down to like borough level or community district level, but to the extent that they like project by state level or city level, right? Like there's a huge divergence between what the census projects and like what some of the city models are projecting. Like the city models are projecting like enormous growth, right? Like Brooklyn's gonna get to like 2.7 million people. But the census models are essentially saying like the nation's population is gonna be flat, the state's population is gonna be flat, right? And
That's
so
true, and they're projecting that you might even lose population in the city.
it looks to me like part of the divergence is that the city models are using the zoned capacity for new housing. So like if the zoning capacity is there, they're saying new housing is gonna be built and more people will come. You see what I mean? Like it's kind of circular.
Oh, the
But
zoning
but they-
capacity is very different.
But the
though.
zoning capacity has always been higher, and we haven't torn down all of the R6 buildings to build up.
That would be like if
The
you
two
tore down
families
every
is
single
there.
building that you
Project,
could possibly rezone and rebuild.
I don't know. I don't know what how people. I don't know how the model works. It's a
I
black box.
I don't think we know how the controller's office.
The controller's office was just saying how much housing production there's been by borough. That's all. It was actually, there was something on the off of the GCP website that was doing this population projection. But if you guys are saying that in practice you don't really use that, that's actually important for us to know.
So it would be helpful to know where I'm upset because I'm just not I'm being like very transparent, like I'm just not familiar with it.
Yeah, I'll find it again.
Yeah, no, we
Is
can
this
talk
from
more about this afterwards.
Mark Levine's
But-
office or
So we probably have to move
Can we
on.
move on with this
Yeah.
presentation?
Yeah.
which
Wasting a lot of
controller
time.
though did
Yeah,
this?
if we can
Go
move
ahead,
on,
Adam.
I
maybe.
can't remember where we pulled it. Was it Mark Levine? I think it was Mark Levine's
Cause that would be new.
controller.
Go ahead.
The
Well, so
Bradley.
let's
pretty
This is it. I mean, this
Yeah.
was the last slide.
Why don't we
was it?
just,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Thank
are there
you.
any other general questions for Adam?
Well, that was something I wanted to know, is which controller you got
That's
the
a
I
good
think it's the
question.
projections
state,
from, because I think
the
these
state
are,
controller had the numbers, production numbers by
that would be
every borough.
pretty, because the new controller is coming out back to play.
And he's gonna get that information.
Yeah, all of this was really helpful because
Yeah.
I think like a lot of the presentation I've been sending over to Suki and Dante, and I think it's nice to get
Yeah.
circulation from the full board, so from the
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
We still want this and then the upgraded one later.
Yes.
Cause this is good too.
this is the
That's
draft.
fine. Yeah, that's fine, we still
Right?
want the
What
draft.
draft?
though.
What if I send this out?
Yeah, that was very good, great work,
So,
thank you so
yes.
much.
Thank
you. Of course.
Really, thank you.
We get there.
8:00.
Well, at least we know we're not.
Went long.
That was
Okay.
making it
Thank
up.
you, Adam. Thank you
You've done
so
our
much.
fair share.
Are you guys gonna do slides?
I do have a
Is there any more slides?
I actually yeah.
Is it the
Are there any other
Oh, okay,
questions
you
or
drink, right?
comments, anything we'd like
Okay.
Adam to see do in the future?
The only thing, I mean,
Well,
it'd be nice.
he has a
to
lot
have
For
a-
the
everything.
homeownership
I
rate.
think he's in.
But that'll, the
Yeah.
ratio,
And then once we get the slides, and I can look at it in a little more
Yes.
detail, then I'll probably have.
Oh,
You
I had a sources slide too.
You
but-
wanna hear what was just asked? Benny, you just asked the gentleman?
So
No, just send it.
Adam will send out the slides to the committee and then we can continue our discussion online. And maybe we'll also have some discussion with the guys from city planning. So the next thing is the charter changes. You guys
Please have one more time, so
ready
there's
to talk about that?
sources.
Yeah.
So we'll just, do you wanna say any words first or?
So I have, I mean, this is the presentation that was given back in January, I think you were on,
Yeah.
there was a public info session that I think you attended, right?
Right.
So I have the slide deck from that, that I
Okay.
can pull up if it would be helpful for people to
Yeah,
have a
why
visual
not?
idea of what the
Yeah.
changes are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam, can I?
Adam.
Oh,
Share your computer.
yeah. I maybe the escape button. Maybe it was more of the. Oh yeah. Got it.
You wanna move your
Computer?
No, it's
That's good.
yeah.
So, We'll probably,
Wait,
Okay.
that's our computer?
you want us to move the laptop?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll sit here and I can flip,
Okay.
Oh boy, be careful.
That's ours, right?
So let me put it down.
This is ours?
Yeah, this is ours.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put it right here.
I'll just pull a chair up so that I can flip between slides if that's useful. So there's going to be a public information session on this on February 23rd. I think I sent the
Yes.
information to you
Everybody
and to
got
Dante.
Did everybody get the link to the information session?
That will be the best
No,
way
I
to
didn't see it.
find out.
What was it said?
I didn't see it.
That will be the best way to find out the most detailed information about the charter amendments, because I think the people leading the presentation will basically be the people who wrote them, right? We at DCP are still working through, like how these will affect our work, and so like that will take some time, but the info session on the 23rd is what I would recommend if you want like the most detailed description of how these are expected to unfold.
I didn't see it. We apparently got a link to this, this that I'm looking for.
Okay, well, check your email, Teresa. I know sometimes resident committee members don't get all of the emails, but all the board members definitely got the.
Okay.
He started, so we should let him.
Yes, so I
So the big things that have changed are as follows. There are new fast tracks for affordable housing. This is broken up into two components. One of them is that basically publicly funded affordable housing projects, publicly funded and subsidized affordable housing projects no longer have to go to the City Planning Commission. They go to the Board of Standards and Appeals, which is the decision-making body that currently decides on zoning variances, right? And so the community board will have 60 days to review these proposals, and then the Board of Standards and Appeals will have 30 days to review and make a decision, and that's the end of the process, right?
60 days from when?
From when the application is certified. I mean, I don't know, Jonah, since this is not going to the CPC, it would not be a ULURP process.
Yeah, the BSA is a slightly different process, so it might be the point an application is filed. But it's a good question.
How do we get wind of when an application is filed so that we know the clock's starting?
I can't speak for BSA, but for DCP, we have to send that out as a notice to the board.
We usually get notices from the BSA
Okay.
when there's something.
So this is for,
What would be an example of a publicly subsidized affordable housing project?
something like Vital Brooklyn, right? Where every, like, the entire thing is income targeted, right? There are no market rate units in the Vital Brooklyn project. They're all targeted at either formerly homeless individuals or people making a certain percentage
So
of
it would be
AMI.
zero market rate, it would be all.
Yes, this is a special provision for, right, because the project has to be sponsored by what's called an HDFC, which is sort of an agency or an entity that's set up to build publicly subsidized affordable housing.
Okay, so it makes sense to me that they would have to be 100% affordable. But like, for example, I don't think Vital Brooklyn is in an HDFC structure. I haven't seen anything in the records
Yeah.
that suggests it's HDFC.
I don't know if Vital Brooklyn specifically is HDFC or not. I don't know the like ownership structure or the legal structure.
Or like, for example, one that we saw last night, which is 245 Clarkson, which is going to be 30 to 80% of AMI plus supportive housing. And it's a nonprofit organization together with a developer. you know, again, it's not clear to me from the records that it's structured as an HDFC.
Right.
So,
No, I think that's a good question, and that's one of the things that I'm still trying to figure out is like what constitutes an HDFC for these purposes, and how narrowly are they defining what counts as an affordable project that would be eligible for this fast track.
okay. And then the other thing I know I heard them say during the presentation was that one thing that's gonna be different from the usual BSA process is that there won't be a required environmental review.
My goodness. Wow.
Is that true? Or-
There's a variance.
I don't know the answer to that, so let me look and get back to you. Yeah, whether
Yeah, I'm also not sure, but I think, so that we have another slide on like there's a different category of affordable housing, like sponsored by HPD. So I think this is more for, I think this is like a more like specific category of like nonprofit led
100%.
project, 100%.
Yes.
I think that's the important.
yes.
That also aren't necessarily like increasing the zoning, or it's kind of like infill development.
So the other question we had is, what kind of AMIs can these HDFCs have?
I don't think that there is, as far as I know, again, I'm like not super knowledgeable in the inner workings of how HDFCs work, but I think, to my knowledge, there's no, like.
Because affordable has become such a tricky word.
Sure, I understand, yeah, I understand what you mean. I don't know of any rules limiting this to units under a certain AMI.
That's
Right.
very tricky.
I think the intent is for BSA to help impose some of those. That's my general understanding, but I think the AMIs would be partly determined by the financing, like if they're receiving subsidies from HPD or like another program, and so they'd be like required to do things based on like the term sheet.
Because like I know, for example, that HDFC can be homeownership, right? And those tend to be at a higher AMI category, right? Like maybe 80 to 130% AMI. So it could be very low, it could be higher, right?
Yeah, I think it would be, we can get back to it, but my understanding is it's subject to like the lending or financing agreement that they're making.
Do you have any idea what BSA's rulemaking process around this is gonna be? Like, are they gonna put out a notice, a public hearing notice for their rulemaking? How's it gonna?
I don't think any decisions have been made yet. No,
Okay.
like, I think we're still in the rulemaking process.
And the other question I kind of had is just administratively, like, our experience with BSA is they're a very deliberative agency. They take their time, they really look into documents, and they don't get that many cases. Like, is this gonna lead to a huge increase in the number of cases at BSA? Like, how?
I like the number of 100% income restricted subsidized projects that we get coming through ULURP is not terribly high, right? Like it just, as Jonah was saying, the financing to make them happen is very complicated. And so, you know, I just, without knowing anything myself about how BSA is staffed, like these types of projects are a very small part of our workload at DCP.
Okay.
Right, so I can't envision that like this is gonna end up with BSA getting swamped and overwhelmed by new applications.
Okay.
The line meet a neighborhood character findings,
Yes.
does that include like environmental studies or?
I think, so neighborhood character, again, I think this is one of the things that still has to be determined, is what would be included in that neighborhood character finding. Generally, environmental review is a separate category of analysis from neighborhood character, right? Neighborhood character has more to do with like height, density, bulk, open space, and like how the building relates to its surroundings. But, you know, Suki had a question earlier about whether or what level of environmental review is required here, and that's something we'll look into. The other part of Charter Amendment number 2 is fast tracking affordable housing in the community districts that produce the least amount of affordable housing. Basically, in the bottom 12 community districts, or the 12 community districts that produce the least amount of affordable housing as a percentage of the overall new housing they produce, there will be an expedited review process for projects in those geographies that include affordable housing at MIH levels or better. This community district is not in the bottom 12. It's not even close to the bottom 12. I think you're probably somewhere in the middle of the pack is my guess. And so this, you know, the sorts of neighborhoods where you are likely going to see this apply are like outer Queens, outer Brooklyn, outer Staten Island, like, you know, I mean, Whitestone, southern Staten Island, possibly Upper East and Upper West, in Manhattan, Bay Ridge possibly, right, like sort of outlying more suburban style neighborhoods where they just really have a lock on new housing development and they build almost nothing. That's the sort of geography that this charter amendment was designed to help get around the bottleneck that is put up in those types of neighborhoods to affordable housing.
So the question I have, we're gonna look at it calculate it every 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going through a slew of development now,
Yep.
but then 5 years from now, we're still shaking out what's already occurred. So will we now be at the bottom of the pack because we don't have any new development?
Yeah, is
Affordable
that
housing
how
development?
the, like, say the Upper East Side would get on that list just because, you know, even though it's incredibly dense there, maybe they're not.
So it's the way that it's calculated is number of new affordable units in the last 5 years divided by overall housing stock, right? If rezonings or new developments keep happening in this community in CD9 that include MIH, I think it is like exceedingly unlikely that you would end up on that list, right? Again, the sorts of neighborhoods that are going to be subject to this are like not building new income restricted housing at all.
Exactly.
Sometimes they're like flood zones as well, you know?
I mean, I will say that it gives some incentive to kind of like phase or stagger your building. Like if you have any control over it, like if you have public land, for example, you might want to say like, okay, instead of building it now, you know, instead of building it all, you know, in the next 5 years, I'm gonna wait and, you know, like hold some back for 10 years from now so that I don't get on the bottom of the list. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, I would imagine that would require an extreme level of coordination on like a community district level that.
that's what planning is.
Right, and again,
That's what planning is.
but again, like, you know,
What body?
in the scenario,
That's
I mean, in the
out of our
scenario
control.
you're talking
That goes
about
by
somebody
development.
sitting on publicly funded land,
That goes by development.
like that land will get developed with a significant component of income restricted housing, which would then count toward that community district's overall like contribution to the city's affordable housing stock.
Yeah, I mean, we, like lots of districts actually have lots of public land,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I don't think that there's any way that like a neighborhood benefits by putting off the construction of affordable housing on public land in order to try to game this system. It just doesn't seem like it would actually happen.
That's probably gonna happen.
They have to factor in overall housing.
Right, so again, for projects that meet these criteria, instead of going to the city council, the community board and the borough president get 60 days to review, and then it goes to the city planning commission for 30 days, and the city planning commission is the final decision.
So one thing I'm noticing on your slides is that it seems that for at least the ones you've spoken of so far, the 60-day community board review still exists.
Yes,
I mean,
that
is
is
that-
true of all of them. There is no change to the community board's like role in the process or the amount of time that you have.
It's just whether that's going to BSA
Or commission or council and like who gets the final decision.
Got it.
Right.
I
But
think that's
everything
important.
Well, here it's 60 days, community board and borough president.
yes.
So that's gonna narrow our time.
No, because they both get 60 days and you do your review at the same time. It's not like you get 30 days and then the borough president
Well,
gets
so I
30
think
days.
one of the things that we had talked about during the City of Yes process, and I don't want to belabor the point, but that we would like for our reviews to inform the borough president's review.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, because it's now not staggered, there's not an opportunity for that. So.
And there's also that concern of what's to stop them from putting things through in late May, early June, and then the 60 days runs out over the summer. Is that
That's a good question, is whether this accounts for the summer break. That's something I would ask.
It seems to.
Yeah, no, that's a really good
People
question,
trying
something I would
to-
ask. I would ask that on the call in a week or two.
And with our neighborhood, the Jewish holidays seem to get, things seem to happen and they don't have an opportunity. Latter-day Saints, other, things happen during.
So what's being cut out over here is the city council?
Yes.
Mostly, right. Now, the problem is that the community board only has advisory power. Nothing we do has any binding power.
Right.
So who makes the final decision? The
City Planning Commission.
All right, so they can technically ignore us and do whatever they want anyway.
Wow.
Yes, but that's true. That's true now.
And the borough
Well, at
president
least-
is
no,
as
but at
well,
least-
just advisory.
At least we can influence our representatives to stand up for us, and they have
Right.
some power. Now we have zero power whatsoever.
Right. So again, this is designed. This one in particular is designed for the 12 neighborhoods that produce the least amount of affordable housing. And the theory in part behind why it was designed this way is because of the informal system that exists in city council, where certain members of council are sort of very good at blocking any new housing development in their district.
It's city council deference, basically.
Right, exactly.
But then again, it's like the affordable part is like, what's really going to be affordable,
But let's let Jonah.
I mean, it's
turn on
income
this,
restricted.
yeah.
What counts as affordable in this case is just income restricted units.
Let's let Jordan.
Right, at any AMI level. All right.
Has the BSA, consists of 3 members that the mayor chooses?
I think 5.
Have the members been chosen yet?
I don't know. I
They
don't.
have terms like city planning
Yeah.
commissioners, so I don't know yet if any of their terms are up or they're gonna be replaced.
But for the BSA, that's
Yeah.
not the same as the city planning.
Yeah, but
That's
they're
correct.
gonna, they have certain terms, and when their terms are out, they'll be replaced. Or they might be pressured to
resign.
now. I don't know.
Didn't they,
Haven't heard it.
I don't want to take too much of it, okay? I think there were some appointments made at the very end.
That was to the rent guidelines, but you might be thinking about the rent guidelines
yeah.
board, where I think Mayor Adams made some last minute appointments to the rent guidelines
Right.
board, who would be more aligned with his views on rent stabilization and tenants' rights than the mayor. Yeah.
I think that backfired, didn't it?
No.
All right, so the next charter amendment that passed is, they're calling it Simplify Review of Modest Housing and Infrastructure Projects. ULURP is very time consuming and expensive to go through. And so what tends to happen is that the only projects that end up going through it are like big, sort of intense, flashy zoning changes, right? When people want to do something that is a modest increase in height or density compared to what's currently allowed, generally they make the calculation that it's not worth it because of how involved ULURP is to go through. And to that point, in the last 10 years, 0 actions have gone through ULURP that sought an increase in development rights of 30% or less, right? It's really only a process that works for like big rezonings. And we, I think the idea behind this was to create a shorter and simpler process to evaluate and approve or deny more modest zoning changes, right? No projects that would require an EIS would go through this project, would go through this process, right? We're calling it ULURP, or the Expedited Land Use Review Procedure.
Well, can you go back?
Sure.
So keep going.
So just to restate that, what you're saying is that any, because folks have had a lot of questions about environmental reviews, any application that would require an environmental review would never be able to use expedited land use.
So any application that would require an environmental impact statement, which is sort of the highest and most intensive level of environmental review that is possible, right? Most projects do not require a full EIS, but those projects that do would not be eligible for this process, right? An example of something that got a full EIS was like the Atlantic Avenue rezoning that
7399?
no, that was an
No.
environmental assessment statement. That was
That's-
did 960 Franklin get a full EIS?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what.
Vital Brooklyn as well.
Right. Vital Brooklyn would get a full EIS. 960 Franklin Avenue got a full EIS, right?
That's a spice factory?
Yes.
I mean, I would say generally speaking, like it's things in the range of like 500 units and up.
Yes.
Right? So just
Or
You
like for
can't say that now.
I mean, like for example, I've got a project right now that I'm working on that I'm the project lead for that doesn't have that many units, but is in like a flood. It's in a coastal area, right? And so there are some questions about possible, like we want to analyze the full impact of like potential sea level rise and coastal location, and so it's getting a full EIS, right? So there are a variety of reasons why the department might decide that something warrants a full EIS. It's not just the number of units, but like generally you're on the right track that the big projects are generally the ones that get a full EIS.
If we could, actually, I know you probably want to move on, but if we could actually just maybe like later, if you could talk to us about the types of situations that would warrant a full EIS, other than just a strict number of units cut off, that would be helpful. And by the way, just so everyone knows, there is like a bill at the state level now to cut off SEQR, the State Environmental Quality Review, for projects under a certain, like for projects that are less than 500 units in dense urban areas, which is New York City. So that would like probably cut out the exceptional situations like you're talking about that, as long as it's under 500 units. So that could start to, play a role.
It could affect our work, yeah.
So the question I have about this definition of modest, we now have, 1 or 2 family homes that are on an R6 lot.
Yes.
Now the R6 lot got upzoned as part of City of Yes. And now someone can come along and say, we want to put in a modest rezoning.
Right.
So you're going from a 2 or 3 story building to a 10-story building, or I don't even know, higher. But it's considered modest. So now we're saying that doesn't go through an EAS?
No.
EIS?
So the definition of modest is right here.
So that's the concern I have,
Yeah.
that we can have a whole community now that skirts through,
Right.
has all this upzoning, and we have no
Right.
environmental
So
impact anymore.
right. So if like someone wants to build a 5 or 6 story apartment building in place of a 2 to 3 story building in an R6 zone, and the zoning lets them do that, they can do that under the current zoning,
Right.
right?
But now they want to go higher.
So what would trigger this is up to a 30% increase in allowable FAR. Right?
Off of the new zone, off the city of Yes zone.
Off of whatever, yes,
Base zoning.
yes, off of the base
Because the
zone.
base zone, but the base zone has now increased.
Yes,
So,
that's right.
we've just gone through a citywide upzoning, and so to add this on top of it, with no
This
with
is
no
on top of
impact
that,
assessment.
this is the charter changes.
Well, that
This
was,
is a charter change,
that
but
was
now this is
actually-
definition of modest, which is on top of of new zoning that none of us have felt the impact of yet. So I'm just concerned that this is signing us up for a significant amount of development that falls under the radar
But it's
and has
supposed
no
to,
environmental impact.
it's supposed to hit those,
So
Under
it's
12,
it's
right?
not it's not that it's no environmental impact. It's so the way that this works is it would go to the community board and the borough president for 60 days, and then it would go to the city planning commission for 30 days, and they would be the final decision maker. We, DCP, would still conduct the level of environmental analysis that we feel is necessary before it's even referred out to the community board, right? So like, when we certify an application is complete, we send it out to you all, right? We've already done the environmental analysis work in the department to analyze the potential impacts, right? That would not change under this scenario. We would still do all of that work in advance of sending the application out to you for your review. So this doesn't waive environmental review in any way. It just shortens the decision-making process after it certifies.
So actually,
the
my
check-
question, sorry, was how this was gonna interact with City of Yes, right? Because I don't think it's on top of City of Yes, right? I mean, like City of Yes, that upzoning is contingent on them providing affordable housing for the entire amount of the upzoning, right? But my question is, like, why would somebody elect UAP under City of Yes if they, right, like you're getting a 30% bonus under City of Yes in exchange for making all of that extra 30% affordable at 60% of AMI. But why would somebody elect that option if they could now just go to city planning and say, I want 30% just because? Because it's a lot, now I can ask for it, and as long as the city planning commission gives it to me,
Right,
You
so
know,
I think,
I don't have to do 60%.
right, I think that, do you know that 30% increase in this case would trigger MIH?
That's a good question.
Because normally when we
Yeah.
upzone, MIH is triggered, right? And so affordable units or income restricted units are then required as a condition of the upzone. And so I think something that you're sort of touching on here is like, let's say a developer goes to the city planning commission and they ask for this 30% increase,
Yeah.
right? Do they then have to provide a certain number of MIH units as a condition of that 30% increase?
Yeah.
Right? It's a good question. I don't know the answer.
And is that gonna be like written into the rules somewhere, you know, or is the commission just gonna decide everything on a case by case basis? Cause that starts to worry me, you know.
What's the trigger, 30%? Because then they'll just go, I just want a 25% increase, 28%.
It's like how they built like a 99 instead of 100.
See, that's another,
Yeah,
yeah,
they'll just go
potential
right
issue,
underneath
Yeah,
right?
I will say that
what are-
it does, even though we're shortening the process, there is still quite a bit of work required for an applicant. Like they'll have to do like a land use application, they'll have to do some environmental review just to even like screen out. So I hear what you're saying, but I think like it's still gonna be a lot of work for like a private applicant.
Like, are there gonna be,
So-
and then, like, even on the low density side, right, I mean, like, the city of Yes, they gave increases, but only for larger lot sizes, only on wider streets, right? But again, here, there's none of that, right? Here, they can ask for any lot. So, what is the commission gonna have, like, published guidelines around which lots they will agree to upzone when somebody comes to them and asks them?
So, first of all, this expedited process wouldn't really apply to the lower density areas. So
Well,
you
it
can see,
just says there, low
So
density
see-
R1 through R5.
Rezoning to any district with a standard height of 45 feet or less and FAR of 2 or less.
but I guess what I mean is that if it's a low density area rezoning to another low density district,
Yeah.
it wouldn't apply. But if they're going, if you're going from a low density district to virtually to almost every type of higher, not middle or higher density district, that'll be above 30%. Because like the highest low density district is R5, that's 2 FAR. The lowest, the next district above that would be R6B, which I think is like 2.4 FAR.
But
So-
okay, let's say for example, somebody is in an R4 district and they have like 1.0 FAR and they wanna go to a 1.3. They go to the city planning commission and say, I want this increase, right? Are there gonna be any published guidelines around what the city planning commission will say yes to and what they won't? You see what I'm saying? And like, how is that interacting with what City of Yes was trying to do, where they were giving, you know, the increased density for the TOD areas, which were like, there were certain requirements around there being transit, wide streets, whatever, certain lot sizes, whatever. But now anybody, any lot, whether it's a smaller lot, a larger lot, a narrow street, a wide street, next to transit, not next to transit, they can go and they can ask the city planning commission for an upzoning. And, you know, how does the public have any transparency around what they will or won't say yes to?
So I could say for the city planning commission, I think as far as like how they're gonna determine it, that's not, the intent here is not to change that at all. So like an applicant will have to make their case to the commission,
Okay.
to the community board. As staff, we also give recommendations and any decision around if the zoning change is appropriate is always discretionary, meaning that it's like case by case. It depends on like the context and like surrounding area and all, like a number of factors. So I think like that, the intent here is not to change
So
that
is
at
there
all.
gonna be any rulemaking that happens with the city planning commission where they issue a set of principles or a set of guidelines or anything like that?
As far as like how the commission will make their
Yeah.
decision? Well, we, for each of these projects, the commission has a report, and that, as far as that's not changing. So like, every report, is written like with a background of a project, and there's a section called consideration, and that explains the commission's, decision. So,
Okay, but there aren't going to be guidelines published ahead of time that says the commission will approve these types of rezonings, but not these types of upzonings, but not others.
no, because everyone is different, and like, internally, we have concerns that we raise to the commission about projects, and like, it really is like case by case. Like, so, you know, it's not, like, we can explain some of the principles used, but we don't have like a hard and fast.
Okay, because how are we gonna
Yeah.
avoid stepping into spot upzonings, which are illegal? That's.
I mean, I don't. I think, like, when I think of a spot zoning, I think of like a very dramatic increase in what's allowed on a property, right? On a single site. And these rules are designed to make sure that things like that don't happen by sort of putting a cap on, like, how much you can increase the allowed floor area and still qualify for this expedited process.
Okay, I mean, okay.
You should, okay,
That's all.
He has 7 more slides just so that you'll
Okay, alright.
So we need to get them.
These are other types of actions that will qualify for the expedited land use review procedure. Things related to resiliency, clean energy, and open space, changes to the city map, also HPD dispositions and acquisitions for affordable housing. So when public land is sort of when public land is identified and acquired in order to build 100% affordable housing, that would also go through the expedited land use procedure.
Like that MTA stuff.
Finally, there's an Affordable Housing Appeals Board, which basically allows, if an application for a project with MIH levels of affordability or higher, if that application is rejected by the city council, the applicant can appeal it to a new Affordable Housing Appeals Board, which consists of the mayor, the city council speaker, and the borough president of the borough where that project is located. And a 2/3 vote of that board can override a council veto. So again, something.
So the mayor and the speaker could override the borough president of the borough.
Yeah, they could. Any two could override the other. You know, it's basically you need a majority vote of this board to override a council veto.
And they only consist of 3.
Yes, that's right.
That's.
And again, the projects that are eligible to be appealed to this board, they must directly facilitate at least MIH levels of affordability. And they must be within a single borough, right? So, yeah, any project that includes MIH, if the council vetoes it, could then be appealed to this board. And the board would have the opportunity to vote on the project.
I want to ask if you can summarize MIH levels of affordability. I feel like most people understand, but it could
Sure.
be useful.
Yeah, so MIH levels of affordability are either 20% of the units are available for households making 40% of the area median income. 25% of the units are available for households making 60% of the area median income. Or 30% of the units are available for households making 80% of the area median income, right? Hitting any of those conditions satisfies the requirements of
So it says
MIH.
3 choices.
Right,
Option with
Right.
pressure.
Right,
Crystal.
and any development that takes advantage of one of those right, like you choose one of those. Generally, developers choose one of those options when they're applying for MIH, right? All of the, you know, income restricted apartments in a development sort of average around a certain AMI. But any.
The third option creates the most.
Hmm?
The third option creates the more affordable.
The third option creates the largest number of income restricted units, but targeted at higher earning households, right? Whereas the first option creates a lower number of income restricted units, but the units that it does create are have deeper affordability.
And the developer would appeal
Yes.
the decision?
Yes.
So basically, any decision that is voted down by city council will be appealed.
And just those 3, the speaker.
Are there any criteria on why they can appeal? Or it's up to them to decide, I don't like your decision, I'm appealing?
I think it has to be, they have to formally modify a proposal or disapprove it. So if it's a rezoning, it would be disapproving it or cutting it down further. Yes. Or possibly the other way too. They could modify it up if that's within scope.
So basically, any decision that city council makes that developer doesn't like, they can appeal to the mayor for override.
And you only
That's
need
what
two
this is
out of
saying,
the three
right?
to approve it.
And as long as it's MIH somewhere in the project, they can be appealed to the mayor for override.
Not the mayor,
It's
the
Well,
appeals
this-
board.
this-
Three,
this
three
appeals
people,
board.
the
President.
Yeah.
mayor, the speaker, and the borough president.
Right.
2 out of 3 wins.
Yeah.
It's very subjective.
Gives
Because,
a lot of power to my,
and
very
being that
small.
it's case by case, there's no objectivity or real standards. It's kind of like it's been decentralized.
It's been
And the
centralized.
speaker is so,
Power's been centralized.
It's been centralized, right? Just in the 3.
and not even somebody we elect is the speaker.
And remind us why folks thought it was important to create this appeals board.
Basically, it goes back to what I was saying a little while ago about why the sort of fast track for affordable housing in those 10 bottom producing, in those 10 poorest performing community districts, why that was set up. Because as the system currently stands, council members have a tremendous amount of power to support or oppose an application and have the rest of the council defer to them. And so what that leads to is a situation where a small number of community districts or neighborhoods are doing way more than their share to produce new housing, and other council districts with council members who are sort of adamantly opposed to any sort of change or development in their neighborhoods are able to block anything from happening.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it, but it's also the people, your city council person you've elected and is representing you for your district. So what they're doing is representing you. This totally disempowers city council. So it's a bit, I don't know. And remember, this also, Mayor Adams put this into place with starting with blast, right? So that's how this came to be. Thank you, Mayor Adams. He was expecting to have this power and control, and now he's not going to. But it's the same.
Is there another slide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just thought it was important to revisit that because
It is. It's very.
I think there's a lot of like competing things that are going on with like disempowering the council, as folks have phrased it. But I think I would agree that there's legitimate reasons why, what one single council member decides happens to impact all of us, and it's wrong that a single council member can do that, can have that kind of influence on these decisions.
But
And
that fast track
Well,
was
okay,
part of
we
that.
had this discussion
I know, but
before people.
Yeah.
Can we-
I think it's
Anyway.
important to communicate the values when these kinds of significant
Yeah.
shifts
Right,
are
without sort of giving my own opinion on it, like, that is the thinking behind why this happened, because there are, the sort of development is spread very unevenly throughout the city, and, there are huge swaths of the city that just do not produce any new housing,
Yep.
and in part, it is because they have elected council members who have basically,
Supporting them. Supporting them.
what do you mean?
Their council are supporting them in what they want. That's why.
Which is to not
I
build,
understand.
which is to not build more
Mhm,
housing,
mhm.
and, that's basically, I think the idea is that, in order to sort of share the responsibility of building housing a little bit more evenly, then like, there should be ways to, get around council members who, you can use whatever word you want, are, some might say obstructionist, others might say they're adequate, they're accurately representing the desires of their community. Again, I'm not gonna,
What they were voted for.
Mhm.
So.
Right.
Anyway, yeah,
Okay, let's go.
But that's the thinking behind why this exists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next steps are, I think we're going into the rulemaking process. I believe the BSA fast track and affordable housing fast tracks are going to go into rulemaking first. And I think that is going to begin either this or next month, but again, like the February 23rd information session is where you will hear directly from the people who wrote these charter amendments about what's going to happen next.
And so, you know, does it make sense for us to reach out to HPD and BSA with our feedback? Like what?
Like if you have feedback, I would say
Doesn't the rulemaking process require a period of public comment?
it does, yes.
And so
that
I
would
imagine that's one way.
right. It's the rulemaking, right, it's going to require a period of public comment. I don't know where the ultimate responsibility lies for like implementation of these. I think that's something that we're still sort of figuring out ourselves, is like, you know, if you have questions or comments about this, would you want to go to HPD? Would you want to go to BSA or some other agency? So I can definitely look into that and get back to like who is the point person for like public comment on, you know, what you like and don't like about these suggestions you have.
What kind of effect does public comment actually have on the decisions on the rules? I mean, is it just a, you know,
No, I mean, so,
process or-
you know, I'm thinking back to like, I mean, you know, it was not quite analogous because it was not a CAPA rulemaking process, which is what this is. But like public comment and public feedback had a pretty big effect on the changes that City Council made to City of Yes, right? That like definitely did not sail through City Council unamended. Like the way that City of Yes left City Council, it was like significantly different from how it was when it went in. And I think a large part of why that happened was because there was a lot of public comment that the council took to heart. So again, different legislative process, different rulemaking process, but the public feedback period is valuable for raising issues, and many of those comments and pieces of feedback do get incorporated into the final version of the law.
The other thing I'd say is we had a green fast track. I don't know if folks are familiar with that, but like we had a public comment period for that, and like there were changes that were incorporated. So
yeah, I've been to public comment sessions where, you know, 90% of the people who spoke were against something, and the city went ahead and did it anyway. So
Yeah, we've been in a lot of those.
I will just say that Jordan and I are like some of the folks who will be like implementing some of this. So like we have a very like direct interest in like making this work and like making sure your voices are heard. So.
May I ask you a question? With the exception of the fast track where it's community board is 60 days and then patrol, the borough president 60 days, what would you say is the biggest change in this, in the biggest one that changed in this new procedure?
Yeah.
The new amendments.
I think just in terms of like the number of applications that would be able to take advantage of one of these new provisions, I would say ULURP, right? There are not a ton of 100% income restricted housing developments, right? And so like in order for an application to take advantage of the BSA fast track, it's going to be really great for that application, but we don't have that many applications like that.
Right.
Again, the fast track for affordable housing only applies to the bottom 12
Right.
community districts. Affordable Housing Appeals Board, I think, like, you know, I have less of a sense of how often this is going to get used. I think it's a little bit too early to say. But
Everybody's.
I think ULURP, like, you are going to see a lot of applications that previously would not have ever gotten filed take advantage of this new process because it will no longer be such a
Such a
huge investment of time and money to get land use changes made. That's my guess, is that this is the one that you'll see taken advantage of most often. Not taken advantage of in a like,
No.
in a.
No, I understand what you mean. The
Yeah.
process change, they're gonna take advantage
Right.
of the fact that
Right.
it's, and yeah, I got you.
And I could be proven wrong, but I would say like I've been working many different parts of Brooklyn, and I would say the vast majority of applications we'll get are going to be in the lower density areas in southern Brooklyn, because I think given that most of CD9 is like R6, R7, and the R2 areas are mostly protected by like the historic district.
districts and landmarks.
No, not all of them. There's a significant portion of Crown Heights that's R2 that's not.
By-
not a historic
By like
district.
Eastern Parkway.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Brown Street.
totally fair.
But you would
But I would say like to change the zoning from R6 to like something slightly higher, definitely possible, but I think it's much more likely that if you're gonna put the effort to come to us, put together an application, you're gonna be looking at something like slightly higher, so, but I'm giving you my own personal take, so I could be proven wrong, but that's giving you my best crystal ball.
I understand you're saying the bottom 12, but City of Yes, when they had their public hearing, one of the I think two that they spoke about was that they're going to look at the area of the locations of and the infrastructure, and they're going to take that more into consideration. It's not necessarily being done. I mean, even with Vital Brooklyn, the CEQA law in itself, the CEQA law, there's so many, where they're building is so many different CEQA laws that are not being taken into consideration. So yes, I know that you're saying it's gonna focus more on the bottom 12, but it's not going to omit the ones that have done because of
Yeah,
the
there's-
location, because of the lots,
Right.
because of the houses that they're not talking about deed theft, but the houses that it's not going to omit
Yeah,
the ones that
communities
are doing more.
that have
It's not
done
gonna
their fair
omit it.
share should be,
Exactly. It's not gonna
like, you know,
I
give it
just-
a pass, like, you've done enough, let's focus here, but instead it does the opposite.
I mean, the only way to guarantee that would be to change your zoning to down zone so that you're in the same boat as these lower density communities.
But there's,
Okay, how realistic
but
is
it's not
down
definite,
zoning?
it could be round down zone.
That's not even an equation.
Let's be.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I wanna say is that like, we are in a housing crisis, and
Right.
like, I have to be like frank about that, and like, it's gotten worse, especially the past few years. The latest like citywide vacancy survey we have, it's showing that it's like 1.4% across the
Yeah,
city.
but
and,
that's
like,
what we've
Is
been
that-
throwing
is
around,
that
but
like-
in the meantime,
Is
look
that
at
for
what
all
we got.
levels?
Look at how much vacancy we have in this
There's a
district.
lot of
We have a
vacancy.
lot of
Or-
vacancy and
And you know why
the
they're not renting?
affordability
Because
is
people,
ridiculous.
because
Yeah, the figure
renters
gets
have
thrown around,
more
but it's
rights
wrong.
than some private
It's
home
wrong,
landlords.
it's not correct,
Yeah.
you know
So
it's
a
not.
lot of people don't wanna rent
If
because
you-
of
if you could pay
the
rent
renter has
around,
more rights than them.
just
The
rent
rent
it.
is
It's a lot of vacancies.
It's not true.
So actually, I had one more question about the ULURP, similar to, you know, what I was asking about how this is gonna interact with the city of Yes UAP. So we also have these other voluntary, zoning bonuses for different things, like the Fresh program, like, you know, the transit oriented, I forget what it's called, the transit zoning bonus.
The zoning
Not
for
sure if-
accessibility, maybe?
I'm not sure if it applies in this district, but there are like certain districts where if it's like near a train station and they're gonna be like, then they can get a certain bonus.
You
in
get a
exchange for doing
zoning bonus in exchange for like funding a piece
improvements
of,
to the, yeah.
funding a piece of it, like an
Right.
elevator or
So,
something,
like,
yeah.
and these are all for like relatively modest zoning increases, like 15-20%, something like that. So are these all gonna, and then also like quality housing, which is the other major program, that's also like generally like a 20% increase in exchange for a height cap and tenant amenities. Is that all gonna go away now because somebody can ask for a 30% increase for nothing in exchange? Like, who's ever gonna do any of these other voluntary incentive programs, which are for less of a zoning increase and require you to give something, right? If now you can ask city planning, like, I want 30% just because,
25.
right? Or 20, or 29%,
Yeah.
29.
right? Like what,
And bring
like,
back the parking
how is,
measure.
are all of these random incentive programs just gonna go away?
I think like the so I think Bed-Stuy's a good example where like we have like on Fulton Street was rezoned back in 2007, and like you see like gradually like there's some developments on Fulton. They're all using the previous version of UAP, VIH, the voluntary inclusionary housing. So I mean our thought is that with City of Yes we kind of like expanded VIH or changed it to UAP. So we don't really see like like in areas where there's demand for housing, we'll see like an uptake in UAP. But I think if you're coming in for like a rezoning, like we're going to be applying MIH, so it's like a slightly
Well, okay, so we
Yeah.
did talk a little bit about the UAP, and you were saying maybe they would require MIH if you're asking for the upzoning in those higher density districts. But now I'm asking, like, what about some of these other voluntary incentive programs, like Fresh? Is anybody going to ask for Fresh or agree to Fresh anymore if they don't need it to get their a 15% boost? If I can get it, because we've actually had developers who came to us who weren't eligible for Fresh, who were like, oh, can I get a Fresh up zoning? And you would talk to them and you would say like, look, there's already a supermarket that's like a block away, and then they would be like, okay, well, what about this? What about this? And you could see that they were like looking for any reason
Sure.
to get.
I
And
mean, fresh, like I can say this for sure because I'm working through some fresh applications right now. Like, fresh is less involved in this. Like, fresh is almost entirely a ministerial process, right? There's much less discretion. Like, the City Planning Commission has much less discretion during a fresh application to alter an application than they would in a situation like that.
okay, so how is it going to be defined in the rulemaking? What is ministerial versus what is not? That's kind of what I've been getting at with what kind of guidelines are there going to be that sets this apart as a non-ministerial action where the person can essentially count on it being a rubber stamp?
so if it's that's a good question. We'll confirm if it's a zoning map change.
Okay.
That's automatically discretionary, non-ministerial.
Okay.
So ministerial actions are only actions where if you meet like very specific conditions, then we grant approval. Those type of actions are pretty rare for the City Planning Commission. Usually they're just approved by the chair of the commission.
Okay.
So that so like without getting into like the legal side of it, but like if an action's going to the City Planning Commission, there are like very, very limited circumstances where that wouldn't be discretionary. Because the purpose of the commission is it's like a body of group of people, and so I actually can't we had like an action like over 10 years ago, I think. That was not anyway, but it's like very rare.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the housing crisis. I think I remember seeing on one of the slides that the population is around 90,000, and we have about 45,000 units. I mean, that's like basically one unit for every two people. That doesn't sound like a housing crisis. So how is the determination being made that we're in a housing crisis?
So household size currently in Brooklyn is about 2.5 people per household, right? So the number of units is not the number of bedrooms, it's the number of apartments, right? So,
And some of them are one, some of them are three, some of them could be four.
yes, that's right. So, about 100,000 people in, about 100,000 people in Community District 9, right? About 45,000 units, like assume an average of 2 to 2.5 people per apartment, right? And you're like getting pretty close to like a fully leased up housing market. The other thing is
It's not
that
a crisis though.
what?
I mean, I wouldn't call that a crisis. A crisis means that you have a deficit.
A healthy vacancy rate in markets where like middle class people are not, a healthy vacancy rate in a housing market where, like, for example, middle class people can just like walk into an apartment. Like, I lived in cities where, or not, I lived in cities, but like, my sister lived in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina for a while, and they're building enough homes there that, like, if you want an apartment, you don't have to like wait on a long line with 30 other people to go to a showing. You don't have to pay a broker's fee. You don't have to like jump through a gazillion hoops. You go to the leasing office and you say, I would like an apartment, and they give you an apartment, right? And the kind of vacancy rate that allows that sort of thing to happen is about 5%. And we just know that from looking at housing markets where it is easier for tenants to find a place to live. So
How can we compare Durham
Right.
to New York City? I'm
Right.
sorry, like that.
Price is too high.
Yeah.
Vacancy rate is,
Very different.
He was just explaining the
the
vacancy.
point of
yeah,
a rate
but-
is a way to be able to
Right.
compare
The
across.
right. I mean, the truth is that there is no city as big as New York or like as important as New York that has the kind of healthy, functional housing market that we would like to see. Like every large city in the U.S. has a housing crisis of some sort. I'm just like giving an example of what it generally is considered to look like to have like a healthy housing market, where if you are a renter and you want a place to live, you walk into a leasing office and you're like, I would like a place to live, I would like to rent an apartment, and you get one.
You have choices.
Well, you
It might
probably
be-
could do that with some of these new developments we've had, right? Like 54 Crown or,
But they're
962.
unaffordable and there's so
Well,
much
that's
warehousing.
That's
that's
a
what
different
we're
issue.
saying, Teresa,
That's a
don't
different
interrupt
issue.
me. Right, you could walk into one of these buildings that has 569 units or 320 units or something like that, and the leasing office would probably have like at least 100 units still left, or maybe at any point in time, there's at least 10 or at least 12, right? But, can you afford it? That's the
Right.
question.
I think that's really the issue with our.
Or if it's 100% affordable, you're not walking into a leasing office, you have to be in a
Sign up
lottery.
for Housing Connect.
Right, and that's really a pain.
Yes,
Like,
oh, yeah.
That's a huge deal.
But if you can afford $5,000,
You can walk into a leasing office.
you can get one
Who
more.
cares? Of course you can.
Tonight.
6,000 in my building.
Who can do that? Which I think the sheer number of people who can't do that means that's kind of a crisis.
This is why we don't have that 5%.
Yeah.
Some of it is having to be because of warehousing. It's not.
Exactly.
I
It's
do want
not-
to time check though. We
Yeah,
are at
at
9:02
9:00.
p.m.
That's right.
So it's very
So
late.
I know we've probably got a lot more to discuss. We didn't even get to some of the City of Yes zoning changes, but maybe we can come back to you guys. You guys are willing to come back at some point.
I think at some point in the next month or two, we're coming back to the housing committee,
Okay.
because we want to give that presentation, and we need to work with our housing division to pull the right data, but, I know that, is it Mina or Mina? Mina, thank you, wanted that presentation on like the current state of housing in this community district, and like how many units of each bed, how many 1 versus 2 versus 3 bedroom units, how many are rented versus owned, like what's the, just a sort of snapshot of where this community district is right now around housing.
So,
And that's, I think, our next priority for the next month or
okay,
two.
so I want to talk to Mina. I guess we've already had this presentation from Adam, which was fantastic. And maybe there are some things that we can tighten up. Maybe there's some data that you have that we don't have. But I'm wondering if almost we could do like possibly a joint presentation with housing around things like MIH and how that works, right? Because I don't think everybody knows like all of the details around how some of those programs work. So that might be super helpful, and then at that point, if you have more clarity around like some of these charter proposals and like whether, like how, you know, affordability is gonna factor into that, that might be extremely helpful. Does that feel like something that you guys would be able to do?
Yeah, I would say it's really like, we're a service to you
Okay.
as well, so
Right,
it's like,
the sort of snapshot of housing in Community District 9 was like what Mina asked for, and so we're sort of putting that together at her request because that's the information that she wanted. If there's other information that you want us to get you as part of the presentation, we're happy to do it.
I'm thinking since Adam has done his presentation, maybe we can like move on to other things that are like joint, like a joint.
Yeah,
you know,
you and Mina should talk and let us know what we can provide that would be most helpful for you,
That would be super helpful.
and we're happy to come back and tailor our presentation to that topic.
And then I know like some people in the committee have already had questions about like what the new City of Yes zoning allows in terms of like homeowners being able to add on to their homes or not. You know, I don't know if maybe you want to communicate directly with TCP. I know my major question was, it looks in the zoning code now that anybody can add to their house as a backyard obstruction, like any sort of a residential unit, like whether we call it an ADU or just an addition to your house, as long as you still have a 20-foot backyard. So I wondered, like, which comes first, the overall FAR limit or that ability to have the addition to your backyard?
Whichever limit you hit first,
Okay.
you have to stop.
Okay,
Right, so like if you, let's say the FAR in your district is 4,
right.
right? And you know, your main house is 3 FAR, and so you build a backyard, you know, an ADU that is.
You're definitely gonna be able to build an ADU there.
Right, and let's say that you build an ADU that's 1 FAR,
Right.
and when you're done building it, you still have
A 20-foot backyard.
you still have more space in your backyard that you could use. It doesn't matter
Right.
because you hit the FAR limit and so you're done.
Okay.
Right, and it's you know, the same thing goes for like if the sort of the design of if the dimensions of your backyard are such that you build your ADU and you come up against your rear yard
Right.
like limits, even if you haven't maxed out on FAR,
You can't do it.
you can't do it.
So like I was thinking, for example, of a situation where in my single family home district, which is an R2, and we have a very low FAR even with the City of Yes
Right.
increases, we probably still won't be able to do these backyard extensions in, I mean, almost, well, I might actually.
I mean,
I don't
it depends on how big your house is, but yeah, the you don't get an FAR bonus just so you can build an
Build
ADU.
your ADU.
Right, the FAR is what it is, and once you hit it, you're
Right,
done.
because we have a lot of like townhouses that are in that R2 zone.
Right,
So,
which means they're overbuilt.
yeah, so
Right,
they're
yeah.
likely not gonna be able to take advantage.
That's correct, yes.
So that's just.
Yeah.
So, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
You have to make the motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
So thank you everyone so
Very
much.
great
Thank you guys for coming.
presentation.
Thank you, Adam.
Adam, I want that.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
One thing I.
Sorry, excuse me.